Hello and welcome back. This tutorial is all about Photoshop's crop tool and how to make good use of some of its features. Now I'm going to begin by saying that cropping is something that you should really try and avoid. If you find that you are habitually cropping your pictures, then this suggests that you're not framing accurately at the time you're shooting. Any cropping will reduce the pixel count and definition of your image and therefore affect quality. Now, in a lot of cases, we're using high-resolution cameras to create low-resolution images. So if we're using a 24 megapixel camera and you're trying to produce a picture for a web page, for example, you can get away with quite severe cropping. But if you're looking to make large-scale, high-quality printed outcomes, then excessive cropping may well compromise the results. However, there are some times when cropping is justified. Perhaps there are three principal reasons to crop an image. Firstly, you might wish to change the shape, the aspect ratio of your picture. Typically, a DSLR camera will produce images of an aspect ratio 2:3, but this is not the same shape as many standard print sizes, such as 7:5 or 10:8. Secondly, it's not always possible to frame as accurately as you would like, and this is especially true of street and documentary photography, where time is of the essence and it's all happening really fast. This image here is an example. I grabbed this shot of a friend I spotted unexpectedly at the Great South Run. I recognised him and then had a split second to grab the shot, and thus I wasn't able to frame super accurately as I was using a fixed focal length lens. The third reason for cropping might be to straighten an image. And with the best will in the world, sometimes the horizon is not entirely straight, not perfectly level, and we can use the crop tool to help us resolve this. So, looking at this image first of all, we'll go over to the crop tool, which we'll find in the toolbar. It looks a little bit like a kite, or you might select it by pressing the C key. Next, we're going to choose an appropriate aspect ratio, and as I mentioned before, 2:3 is the default ratio for most DSLR cameras. You might find that you need to swap the orientation of the crop by clicking on this button to switch width and height fields. And now we see that the shape of the crop is the same shape as the image. And as we drag the crop marquee to crop the image, we find that the shape is constrained to the chosen aspect ratio. To apply the crop, we can either click on the commit button here, double click inside the crop area, or simply hit return on the keyboard. And there's our cropped image. Right. I'm going to undo that and I'm going to choose a different crop ratio, 4:5. Swap them around to create the landscape orientation, and this is because I want to give my friend a 10:8 inch print, and this is the correct aspect ratio for that print size. And now that's ready to be printed, and what we see is what we're going to get back from the lab, no surprises. So now let's look at the delete cropped pixels option, and this is new I think from CS6 onwards. So I'm going to undo my crop again and then uncheck delete cropped pixels. So once again I draw out my crop, move it around, choose how I want to crop, and then press return. OK. Then I might decide to do something else to the image, turn it into monochrome for example, and then I might decide that I'm not happy with the crop. Now as I draw out the crop area again, you will notice that the areas previously cropped out are available, and we can reset the crop, like so. So what we have here is non-destructive cropping. Sometimes you need to crop to a specific size and a specific resolution, perhaps because you need to optimize your files for a given size and print quality, or that you've been asked to supply your images at a specified size and resolution. What we would do then is rather than choose an aspect ratio, we would choose width, height and resolution. For example, we might want to crop to 6 inches by 4.5 inches, and we might want to do this at 300 pixels per inch. Check that it is pixels per inch and not pixels per centimetre. So in this case, what we finish up with is an image file optimised for a 6 by 4.5 inch photo lab print. However, I'm going to suggest something that I find even more useful. I'm going to clear this and I'm going to crop to a specific number of pixels. 800 px by 600 px. And then I'm going to drag the crop marquee over the image to choose my crop. And then hit confirm. Now what we're left with is an image that's cropped to the exact pixel dimensions that you are looking for, and this is especially useful when preparing images for a web page. If you're doing so, don't worry about this figure here, the resolution, as it's actually irrelevant. And if you want to know why, then you might read my blog post on resolution. Follow the link. You might decide that this particular crop is one that you would like to apply to other images, perhaps now or at some point in the future. So we can create a new crop preset from this. Type in the name for your preset. And click OK. Then, if we open up another image, we can crop using this same preset to achieve the exact same pixel dimensions. Now, this is an image that was taken rather quickly, rather hurriedly, and as we can see, it's kind of listing somewhat disturbingly to one side. So what we might want to do here is crop in such a way as to straighten the image. This is easy to achieve. Having drawn out your crop marquee, if you simply scroll your cursor outside of the crop area, you might note that it changes into a rotate symbol. Simply click and drag outside the selected crop to rotate until the image appears straight. In fact, we can straighten even more accurately using the Straighten tool. Here it is, looking like a spirit level. Click on the tool. Then click and drag out a line along something in the image that you think should be parallel with the sides of your picture. Release, and Photoshop will automatically rotate and straighten the image. We can also use the same Straighten tool to correct to a horizontal. Here we have a seascape in which the horizon is not straight, and this always looks decidedly odd, as water doesn't flow uphill. Using the same method, simply draw your line along the horizon, and Photoshop will straighten the image. Now you may have noticed that when you draw out a crop marquee, a grid overlay appears. In actual fact, you can choose from a number of different grid patterns. The default is the rule of thirds, but you might choose a more conventional grid. You might choose golden ratio, you might choose golden spiral. All these options reflect ideas about composition. However, I'm going to suggest that this is perhaps not best practice. As I stated at the start of this tutorial, habitual cropping suggests that your framing is inaccurate, and composition is something that should be happening at the time you shoot, not at the point of editing. My argument is that if you are consistently using these overlays to compose or recompose your pictures through cropping, then perhaps this indicates that you need to work on your shooting technique. So there we have it. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, subscribe, share, and have a look at what else is available on duncanshepherd.co.uk.